Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Please continue to pray for me by singing along with me, gesturing at your screen, and leaving a dislike on this video. Let's do it again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Today is October 27, 2024. I'm kind of optimistic today because 14 years ago, I was also in a similar situation. And October 27, 2010 was when something kind of turned around. I'll get to that in a second. But we're coming up to part of the reason I am in such a mess. I just woke up actually, but I thought I would record a video before I got dressed and everything because I need some prayers. Please dislike this video to pray for me. Part of the reason I'm in such a mess right now is that we got the holiday season coming up, obviously, here in the United States. I had hoped to do I had hoped to do some traveling during the holiday season, but uh, I uh, I finally have some money saved up to actually do some traveling. The problem is that I don't have somebody to come back home to, and also I don't have somebody to call home to talk about how good my travels are and everything. And if that wasn't bad enough, the distraction of trying to meet somebody these last couple of weeks has caused a lot of drama in my life. I had um, I had multiple near miss car accidents almost every day. Actually, yesterday I was looking for directions for another event that I wanted to go to hopefully meet the right person, and I was lost. My phone wasn't working for some reason. I don't know why. And this bus driver who was behind me got very impatient and honked his horn, and that upset me. So I thought maybe I could get out of my car to ask him for directions, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. And he held his horn down. And I'm sometimes a little bit more vengeful than I need to be. When he held his horn down, I turned off my car and decided to just stay there to kind of as a little bit of retribution for what he was doing. And after a 1 or 2 minute standoff, I decided, it's not worth it. I need to get to my event anyway. But then I made a U-turn after I figured my phone had finally rebooted. I made a U-turn and I almost hit another car. Came within like 2 feet from hitting somebody when I made that U-turn. I wasn't paying attention. I was running late. I was upset at the bus. But that has not been an uncommon occurrence for me, but I really wanna take the trip to Taiwan, and it's been weighing me down. I finally have the money saved up. I finally have a position where I can ask for some time off of work, and I feel like everything's being held back by, just one event, right? And, so I finally, did some more metal casting. I figured out a location where I could do this, and I'm gonna do a very big pour. I got 400 pounds of bismuth on the way. I'm going to see what I could do with a big pour. It's probably not going to be a Buddha or one of these crystals or anything because I don't have the mold for it. I'll have to think about what to do. It might just be coalescing all of those bars into a giant bar of bismuth, right? After all, uh, Taiwan has the world's largest gold bar. Maybe I could do world's largest bismuth bar. Right, I hope to do that. And hopefully that will help me network with the right person. I don't know how though. I thought for sure if you had asked me 2 years ago what would happen if I had poured so many Buddhas and crystals and all that. I would have thought that would have helped me meet the right person. I really would have. But I'm having physical symptoms. See, I know I have been lonely before. I've never felt physical symptoms. I've never been distracted to the point of almost killing people. I've never what else is going on lately? Uh I can't focus, right? I the other day I feel like I'm jeopardizing my job as well. Um I got very high marks at my work actually. I teach at a community college, and we just had student evaluations, and those were some of the highest marks I ever got. But I know how I got them. I got them because I buried my head in my work to avoid thinking about some of these things, and I don't think it's sustainable anymore. In fact, the other day I almost lost a bunch of my students' papers. I don't know what I would have done if I had lost them. I really wouldn't. And that's the kind of drama that I am running into. But let's talk about previous seasons where I felt heartbreak like this because I've never had symptoms this bad. Let's start from earliest to latest so I can show the progression of how my heartbreak has evolved. My earliest time I can remember was probably when I left high school. I had to leave high school early, take a GED exam, and start college early. I had a lot of difficulty in high school. This was long before the days when there was more acceptance for differences in ways of life, right? And I, in retrospect, some of my classmates could have also been envious about my studies. Uh, I was, well, I was a few uh, years ahead of my studies, and so, but I don't remember. I remember being heartbroken about having to leave high school behind. I don't remember having physical symptoms, especially the vomiting, the diarrhea, the feeling like life is being held on hold, right? Not being able to travel. Although I also didn't travel around that time. 9/11 had just happened, and I had a fear of flying. So I did go a number of years without flying. But I don't remember thinking that of life being on hold until I meet somebody. I don't remember that. After all, I did graduate from college. I had a rough time after graduating from college, that's for sure. But I don't remember thinking of it as life being on hold. Not long after that, I developed severe eczema. I came to realize that it was because I had food sensitivities, but uh, I had to take a break from a number of events, and I did miss some school, but I did catch up. And I obviously missed out on a lot of social activities as a result of the eczema. I remember feeling pain from the eczema. I can still feel that if I think about it. I can't remember any heartbreak kind of pain, though. I really can't. That takes us to 2010, probably my most infamous heartbreak season. I had um, I had been taken advantage of financially by a girl. It was my first significant relationship. I lost my virginity to her, and I almost dropped out of school. I wasn't eating right. I was spending all my money on her. I wasn't eating right. It was affecting my concentration at school. I broke up with her in May of 2010. And a couple weeks later, there was a coin show, June 13th of 2010. And I didn't have a girl to take to that coin show. And I was really depressed out of my mind. But you know what? I bounced right back out of that. June 13th, 2010 has become a very important date for me. Go Google my name and June 13. I celebrate it every year. And I remember calculating because I had lost all my money during the time with the girl. I remember calculating how long I would have to live very simply. Probably no dating again, and probably no vacations. And I did the calculation, how many months I remember thinking of it because I had just moved out of my family's home. I was 23 years old. I remember thinking that this was like punishment for what it kind of like having to be grounded for a number of months just to rebuild my financial situation. When I did the calculation, it was a large number of months. Uh, so I did a little bit of a compromise. I would lose something and recover some of it, and I decided to make it 3 months. The actual number of months was a lot more, but I decided that I would take 3 months of intensely rebuilding my finances, and the rest of it will just have to wait, right? Because I do need a life. I remember doing the calculation, but I don't remember the 3 months being that bad. During that time, I was working on my PhD. I had a conference in Italy, and I had I was eating well again. It's kind of funny if you take a number of months where you don't eat very well, and you just because during the time I was with the girl, I was eating fish out of Lake Ontario. I was eating some game meat that my classmate had hunted. Um, I got severely poisoned. I have since learned that fish out of Lake Ontario can be pretty high in mercury and also various pesticides, organophosphate kind of pesticides. And so I also learned that game meat, when you hunt it, can become contaminated with lead from the ammunition. These days, we make bullets out of heartburn medication, but at the time, we were using lead. And so I got significantly poisoned from lead and mercury. And after I broke up with the girl, I was eating well. I remember how well I was. I wasn't well, but it was normal that I was eating after I broke up with the girl. But it felt like I was eating like a king because I hadn't eaten food like that for months. And so when I broke up with her, it felt like I was eating like a king. It really did. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird how that feels, right? But I grounded myself for 3 months in order to recover my finances. And on October 27, 2010, 14 years ago today, is when I returned to the dating world. So that's why I, rem- uh, I remember how long it was. But I don't remember it being that painful in terms of the heartbreak. It was painful in the sense of the lead and mercury poisoning. Wasn't so painful in terms of the heartbreak. And that takes us to the next one. In 2016, I I was dating a girl many years younger than me. She was living with her parents. And one day we had argued. And the reason we had argued is that I was really late getting to their home. I was busy writing an AI for the game of 2048. That game was crazy that year. I was writing an AI to solve it, and it was really late. But my girlfriend accused me of cheating on her, and I told her that I was cheating on her with a computer game, and that upset her even more. Uh, I don't she I don't know if it was because she didn't believe me or because that was even more insulting than actually cheating on her. So we argued, and I stormed out of their home, and I was so lost in thought that instead of driving home, which was only 3, 4 miles away, I ended up driving from Seattle all the way to Ellensburg, if you can believe it. I'll let you map that out on Google Maps. It's a 2 hour drive away. When I got to Ellensburg has pretty dark skies, and Jupiter and Saturn were out. And after I took a few photographs of Jupiter and Saturn, I decided to look up, when they're what time of the year they're going to be out. And I discovered that in 2020, Jupiter and Saturn were going to come into conjunction. And I remember thinking to myself that I, uh, I was going to propose to a girl on December 21st, 2020. I was going to take her to a Dark Skies area, maybe even Ellensburg, and propose to her. Well, I came really close to doing that, actually. I'll get to it in a second. I did have kind of a engagement ceremony there, but a different kind than that. And I came very close to proposing to a girl in 2020, actually. And that takes us to the next well, eventually I did break up with the girl that I argued with in 2016, and actually she got married earlier this year. I'll get to that in a second too. And that takes us to the next heartbreak in 2020. In March of 2020, when we first learned we had to stay 6 feet apart, I was messed up. Thank God we didn't have to drive a lot during that time, right? I could have gotten into car accidents back then too, like how I almost do today. But that's all I could think about at the time was when is this thing going to be over so I could see her again. I was living out of my car at the time, and so I had very frantically booked an Airbnb to cry in, basically. I distinctly remember the first couple of nights in that Airbnb just crying my guts out. But that was very short lived, actually. The heartbreak was very short lived. I started writing an AI for the game of backgammon, which I nicknamed Corona Gammon. I remember thinking after things reopen, I'm going to brag about the number one AI for backgammon that I wrote during the lockdown. And so I went to the park one day and had the entire park to myself. That was a real nice feeling. And also, I did an intermittent fast lasting 40 some hours, and it was easy because I didn't have all these distractions. You don't realize how many how many cues to eat there are when you go out in public, right? Whether it be in the office, whether it be at somebody's home, whether it be uh, uh, just go to the shopping mall. You don't really realize how many cues there are to eat something until all that is taken away. So that was really nice. I was routinely fasting 40 some hours. Actually, today I'm also routinely fasting 40 some hours, but for a very bad reason. I'll get to that in a second. But good or bad, a fast comes and it still has health benefits, I would imagine. But then I moved to the Rocky Mountains, as you guys remember. And on December 21st, 2020, I came back to Ellensburg to view Jupiter and Saturn in conjunction, but I did it alone. And so that was good. And that takes us to the current. So I have a heartbreak roughly every 4 years, right? We had one. The one in high school was 2001, 2002, right? I had the eczema in 2007. I had the situation with the girl taking advantage of me, getting poisoned with lead and mercury. That one was in 2010. I had the one where I went stargazing. I had in 2016, and the one where I had to stay 6 feet away from my girl. That was obviously in 2020, and here in 24, we run into this again. What had happened was that 2 years ago, I started my art career with Bismuth, right? You guys know. Kind of interesting because the last time, or that I had a meltdown with the heartbreak, I was poisoned with lead and mercury. This time I'm working with bismuth. So I get involved with some kind of element on the sixth row of the periodic table every time I run into this, right? Let's see, we did lead and mercury, we did bismuth. There was a time in my life where every time I got upset, I you got to remember years ago we had light bulbs with filaments in them, and there was a time in my life, every time I got upset, I would throw one of those light bulbs and make a mess. I had anger management problems. I was living with my parents, and so that was tungsten, right? So the one when I was in high school, 2001, 2002, you can think of that one as the tungsten one. There was a lead and mercury one, and now bismuth. Right. So it's kind of interesting how it turned out. I don't know why. But 2 years ago, I started my art career, and obviously, I took some time away from dating as a result of that, and I didn't really think much of it. But this year, it's come back to bite me because I'm hoping to travel again. Now that I've made my money, with my art career and with other things. I have some money to travel, but I don't have somebody to come home to, and that's been bothering me a lot. And you throw on top of that my ex-girlfriend getting married, the one that I left to go stargazing, she got married, and the one I left to write the computer games, I think she has a boyfriend now. You throw on top of that all of that, and it just becomes insurmountable, the thoughts. And as a result, lately I've been getting into near miss car accidents almost daily to the point that I almost want to take FMLA for my job because I don't feel comfortable driving. Tomorrow, when I go to when I see my coworker, I'm thinking about just handing over my keys to him. I'm going to be taking a bus or an Uber to the office, and I'm thinking about turning my keys over to him because I trust him. Because I don't feel comfortable with myself behind the wheel anymore. But I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to get to work. Now, why don't I just take FMLA? Well, the work actually I like. It's actually helping me get over this. What I don't need is the driving. I wonder if there's a equivalent to that, right? Uh, but I don't know. I can imagine going to HR and saying that due to safety issues, right? I can't be driving, and there really isn't a good way to get here. I can imagine getting time off from work for that, but that's not what I need. That's the problem, right? Kind of weird. I don't know if anybody has ever run into that where you can work but you can't drive, right? I don't know if anybody. Well, I guess there are people who have alcoholism problems where that might be a situation, right? Anyway, that's how I feel at the moment. Uh, so right on schedule. It seems like every few years. I didn't realize how on schedule it was until I was mapping all of this out for this video, actually. But you know what? The other heartbreaks also ended, right? So I did think about that as well. After all, I'm not still dealing with reeling from the leaving high school, right? I hardly even think about that anymore. I only thought about it today because of this video, right? I guess I do have to think about the eczema because there are foods that I have to avoid. But you know what? I don't miss those foods. I don't even think about it. The only way I think about it is that sometimes somebody's eating something that might set me off. I have to social distance from them. Um, and that's the only reason I even have to think about it. The girl that took advantage of me financially when I was working on my PhD. Hardly even think about that anymore, right? Actually, that's probably the least thought about one because of how far I bounced away from that. The girl who I cheated on with writing the computer game, and then I went to go stargazing with. I only thought about her this year because she got married. Actually, it's kind of insulting how I even thought about her. I forgot about her all and until she has a very unique first name. So when she posted something on Facebook, the first name was the same, but the last name was different, and I kind of recognized the picture of her, and I couldn't believe she got married, and that's the only reason that even came up this year, right? The girl that I left in order to write the computer, the Corona Gammon. Well, we we weren't a good fit to begin with. Thank God we were forced to stay 6 feet away from each other, right? Otherwise, we could have gone down further in that rabbit hole, and who knows what, right? So maybe today's events will one day be just like any number of those, right? So that's not the end of the world then, right? But I do hope to travel this. The only reason I'm pushing this with such urgency is that I want to travel this Christmas, right? If I'm recording, well, the reason I didn't talk about this in July, I probably was feeling heartbreak in July, and so I didn't think about it to this extent because there wasn't a time crunch coming up, right? I do hope to go back to Taiwan in December, and but I want to meet somebody like now because in March there's gonna be an occultation of Mars from the moon, and I hope to go to that one alone. I don't wanna have somebody wanting to tag along with me on that one. So I hope to meet somebody around Thanksgiving and hope and maybe we'll break up around the time of Valentine's Day. That would be ideal. And then I can go see the occultation alone. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.